Rabbit Hole Roundup, episode 87. Welcome back, football. So guys, in today's episode, football is back. Now me personally, I'm more of an NFL guy, so I will mostly be covering NFL unless something relevant happens in college, or maybe later in the season I'll get some college football, but we'll see. But of course, as I usually do, I'll be saving the sports coverage for later in the episode, so that this way I can keep it all as current as possible.
I'm Katie Current, keeping it current.
But let's go, welcome back, football. Other topics from this episode include, first up I want to talk about how this time that we're living in is great, I believe at least, because the tools and resources to be successful are all out there. I mean, if you guys think about it, we've never been this close to the best in their fields, so there's so much to learn from interviews, podcasts, books. It's all at our fingertips. Then I have some great music topics. First up with how I have a new emerging rapper who I like a lot, who's been growing on me recently. I'm talking about Bigxthaplug. He's super talented and has a crazy flow with his rhymes. And in line with this topic, I talk about my top 5 rappers of all time, after seeing Michael Beasley give his a few days ago, so you're not going to want to miss that. And another great Michael Beasley clip I saw was about the importance of your inner circle and why he should have listened to Pat Riley. And finally, before my sports recap, I have a really great Jeremy Lin clip.
That's right! Linsanity!
Where he talks about why he wishes that he learned the importance of tying your identity in something beyond who you are as an athlete earlier on in his career. Anyways, without further ado, let's dive deeper now. Rabbit hole time, let's go.
This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
What's happening, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Jared Weiss. For you guys to know, that must mean not subscribe to the channel, so you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button, be sure to leave a like, drop a comment, let me know your thoughts in the video. Follow me on every platform, and if you guys haven't done so already, make sure to check out my book, Fight Through by Jared Weiss. All links purchased on my website, which is jaredbryanweiss.com. It's JAREDRYANWEASS.com. Buy the book, support me, and make sure to check out all the awesome shirts in there as well. Every shirt is made of 100% organic cotton. Every shirt has its own motivational saying, so has words in it. So any support at all, as I'm always saying, is very much appreciated. So let's dive deeper into this rabbit hole now. So I first want to talk about how in this current age, although success is never quote-unquote easy, but all the tools and resources that any of us will need to be successful are all out there and waiting for us to utilize them. It's recently, I've been on a good Charlotte kick ever since their new album came out, and I'm listening to a bunch of their podcasts on Artist Friendly, where one of the lead singers, Joel Madden, is talking about mental health, he's talking about family, he's talking about healing his traumas, he's talking about cosmic energy and putting it out into the universe and it's always going to come back to you. I was also on a huge Jelly Roll kick at one point, as many of you know, and he's still one of my favorites too. I also love watching Will Smith's interviews.
You might be all of those things, you got it on me in 9 categories. But if we get on the treadmill together, there's 2 things. You're getting off first, or I'm gonna die.
And of course, I'm not saying any of these people are perfect, but there is so much to learn from them, whether it's about success, mindset, or also recently I've been listening to a ton of Michael Beasley interviews and podcasts, where he does 3s and 1s with Chris Haynes, and there's something about what they speak on that feels very real and genuine to me, and of course, that's what I'm all about. And look, you don't have to be someone with 1 million followers. I'm personally always searching for the underground stuff, and while the people who I just mentioned might not be the most underground, they're also not going to be the ones who are at the top of every algorithm, I think at least. But I'm hearing and absorbing these golden lessons about mental health, relationships, friendships, and mistakes that all these people have made, and it's just made me realize we're living in a pretty amazing time right now, where all of us are as close as ever to the most successful people, and any questions that any of us have are all answered, even by tools such as ChatGPT.
We have technology.
Who initially I was very hesitant to use and try out at first, but recently I've gotten a ton of benefits from there. Now on the flip side, this access to all the information out there, and all the information in the world, can also be used to listen to celebrity gossip and drama out there, or can also be used for over comparison. So this is, of course, as I'm always saying, a double-edged sword, but being able to learn from so many different people, and all these massive successes in any field, whether it's sports, music, health, motivational speakers, etc., or even unknown people who have a ton to offer, who show up on our algorithms and on our feeds, this is an amazing time to be in if you're intentional about it. So don't let this time pass you without learning from as many amazing people out there as you can. Next up, going back to the music topic, I have a lot of rap and hip-hop talk in this episode. So recently I did a lot of the Song of the Summer talk. I also had some 2000s music talk, as well as recently I did an episode where I spoke about pop punk and punk rock coming back, but now it's time to get into rap. So recently, a newer artist started to grow on me a lot. Who am I talking about here? Bigxthaplug. So initially I wasn't a fan, or more so for whatever reason I didn't really give him a chance, but then recently on Spotify his song Whip It came up for me, and I was like, dang, this guy has bars, and his flow is crazy. I think he's actually a solid mix of like Biggie Smalls and Rick Ross even, but his flow and speed can go with the best of them. Now I will say I don't like all of his songs, but if you give him like a really good beat, he goes off on it, and he goes hard. Then recently while I was still getting into him, I saw a song he had out with Jelly Roll, who's one of my favorites, and I listened to his whole new album, which I think is perfect for this whole genreless era of music. So the album was called I Hope You're Happy, and it's a mix of both rap and country, and I think it works really well in this time. So my favorite songs in that album were Box Me Up, which featured Jelly Roll. I also love the song Long Nights, which is like super motivational, which featured Thomas Rhett, another country singer, and the song Home, which featured Shabuzi. So another really good new album, and then some of my other favorite pure rap songs of his that really show off his incredible talent are Whip It, which came out in 2023. Then you have the song Hip Hop, which is like super fun vibe with Lil Wayne on his album. Of course you also have the song and The Largest. And then he also has like a really great freestyle song called Havin' Freestyle. So we'll see if his massive rise continues. But like let me know in the comments if there's any other fellow emerging Bigxthaplug fans out there. Moving right along, I want to share a clip coming from Michael Beasley, which talks about his top 5 rappers. And then after this, I'm going to give mine.
Top 5 right now: Thug, Drake, Future, YB, and Kodak.
Which one of them is hotter than Kendrick right now?
All of them.
He said all of them, man.
Which one of them that you just named is hotter than Kendrick right now?
All of them. All of them.
Let's pull the numbers up.
So he just gave like his top 5 right now, but like I'm going to give you guys my top 5 all time, and then probably next week I'll probably save up my top 5 right now talk. Now look, just to be clear, he's crazy for putting Kodak ahead of Kendrick, and I'm not even like a big Kendrick fan at all. It's not really my taste, and yes, he does have like a few really good songs, and I do think Kendrick is like a little bit overrated. I'm sorry to say it, but like, it's just my opinion.
You suck!
But he is definitely way better than Kodak Black. Kodak does have like a verse here and there that's good, but he's nowhere near Kendrick. Anyways, time for my top 5 rappers of all time, with some honorable mentions I'm going to give as well. So, my top 5 all-time list, in no particular order, is Eminem, Drake, J. Cole, Lil Wayne, and Kanye. Now, let me explain. My criteria for this is who has the best bars, who's able to be super creative, who can you listen to over and over again without getting tired of them, who has the most longevity in the game, and I'm sure part of it also has to do with like the era that I grew up in. So before you hate on my list or tell me why I'm wrong, remember it's just my opinion, and like of course I'm influenced by the era I grew up in. Now, to give out some honorable mentions, and I'll tell you why these people didn't make my list. First up we have Nas, incredible rapper, but aside from Illmatic, none of his other albums compare to that level, so not enough bangers that like I could listen to over and over again. Then of course you have his nemesis from the early 2000s, Jay-Z, and the reason why I didn't put him up there is because I consider him to be like a great all-time artist, meaning his songs are very well put together and like he does have a huge library of music, but I don't consider him to be like an all-time quote-unquote rapper. Then you have Outkast, incredible novel sound, but not enough songs that I can play back and consider amazing, but of course they did have a great run. And Andre 3000 is a legend in his own right. Busta Rhymes, this is a tough one. And I'll put Twist up there too if we're talking about rappability and speed, as those two are two of the best to ever do it, and each has a ton of awesome features as well. Some of their verses like are absolutely insane, so both of them are definitely on the cusp in my book because of their incredible talent, and like I'll even put Tech 9 into that class as well. Another honorable mention that falls just short for me is DMX. This guy of course is one of the realest to ever do it, so especially in an era where we find that like a lot of these guys are CIA ops. Now I get that, but like it also doesn't take away from any of their talents, so I try to set all that aside, but X was a real one. He went hard, he always went hard, and he has some of the best hype songs ever. But as far as how many of his songs can I listen to over and over, is he at the level of Eminem, Drake, Lil Wayne, Kanye, and J. Cole? Probably not. Now the reason I don't say Biggie or Tupac isn't because they weren't amazing, but because there isn't enough of a library unfortunately, so of course their longevity gets shut down. And also I was born in 1996, which makes it harder like to feel the vibes when you weren't around for them. hence why all of my choices were ones who I was alive for and was able to feel the impact of all their verses. So I realized while I was editing this video that I forgot to mention one of my all-time favorite rappers, who may actually be like borderline on my top 5, and I can't believe I forgot about him, the legend Mac Miller. May he rest in peace. He had some super deep lyrics and like super deep songs. Of course, he also had some shallow ones, as do all these rappers, unfortunately. But something about Mac always felt like super genuine, and you could feel like what he was feeling, and he seemed to have a really good deep soul. So shout out to Mac. He might be tied for top 5, or at the very least 6th on my all-time list. Some other noteworthy favorites of mine are also Big Sean, Logic, and B.O.B. But anyways, that's my list at the moment. It could change at any time, of course, but that's who I'm going with. Who are you guys choosing for your top 5 all time? Now next up, I want to share another really powerful clip coming from Michael Beasley on the 3s and 1s podcast that illustrates the importance of who you hang around with and the people who are in your circle, because these people can either tear you down or rise up with you.
If I did it all over again, I would have listened to Pat Riley. Pat Riley told me to get a condo, get 2 bedrooms, one for my mom when she come in town, and everybody else figure it out. I went the polar opposite, and my excuse to him was like, yo, I grew up in an apartment, like I need some space. So I got a 6-bedroom house, got 3 dogs, had 3-4 of my niggas staying in, you know, and then that's where all the problems came from. Like, and it made sense to me because it's like, these is real life problems. Like I was bailing people out of jail. I was getting lawyers. Like my uncle was fighting a RICO. My godfather was, you know, they all got 9, 10 years, 30, you know what I'm saying? So to me, like I was really like dealing with problems, but looking back on it, it's like my daughter's 16 right now. She's getting all kind of NIL. She's NIL. She's about to be. If she's not going to be one of the players that get drafted, she's going to be a person that makes a lot of money in her life, her career. I will never look at her and say, "You're 19. You need to take care of me or pay for my lawyer or anything like that." You understand? So, I think I just wish I had the confidence to tell everybody no. Just let me get to my second contract first. Let me, you understand? And my fuck-ups would have been my fuck-ups. Yeah. Most of the fuck-ups people know me for was me taking the rap for other people around me and me just being a famous person. You understand? I didn't realize when everybody would tell me that, yo, I'm just doing what they doing. Yeah, but we know who you are. You understand? So if I can do it all over again, I would have just came in. I would have listened to Pat again. Lance Banks, RP, he tried, like, I thought it was intrusive, but Lance Blanks literally came to my house. He moved me out my house and moved me into a condo right across the street from Phoenix. But then he moved somebody in there to like keep an eye on me. That's the same thing Pat did. Pat got me a condo and he kept somebody outside the front door to make sure he was clocking me. And that part made me feel like I was in a cage. You understand? So like, but at the same time, I just wish I would have listened to them, because they just wanted me to lock in and just hoop. Just lock in and hoop, you know?
So unfortunately, Bees had to learn this the hard way. If you hang around bad people, that energy will engulf you. It took away his focus, and like he wasn't able to devote all his time onto the court and what he was doing there. And as he said, like he was bailing people out of prison, and the people around him ended up being like a huge distraction for him.
Get lost, you two. You're making him lose his focus.
And this guy is one of the best basketball players in the world still, I think, to this day in my opinion. And he's a huge reason why I love the Big Three. But his inner circle definitely played a role in why he had to leave the NBA. Now I'm super happy for him, like, that he got a second chance in the Big Three and that he's been maximizing it. But his inner circle was full of negative people who had a bad influence on him. And I can't emphasize it or say it enough times. You were the average of the 5 people you spend the most time around. If you hang out with 5 drug dealers, chances are you're going to become the 6th. If you hang out with a bunch of negative people who are always down and who are always talking about like how much life sucks, most likely you're going to become negative too. So sometimes in life, you're better off being that lone wolf when that's the best option. And just because you've known someone the longest doesn't mean that you have to keep them around if they're no longer serving your best interests.
That's it. You are out.
Because even if you do manage like to stay yourself and keep your own individuality, that stress of having those people around can definitely bring you down. So make sure to protect your energy and be aware of who's surrounding you at all times. Next up, with advice coming from another former NBA player who went through a lot as well, Jeremy Lin. So in this clip, he talks about finding your identity in something outside of basketball. Let's watch together.
Figure out what your identity is outside of basketball, outside of being an athlete. You know, I always compare two moments. The height of Linsanity. Literally, BMW was like, yo, come down, sign some autographs, we'll give you a BMW. People were like, hey, live in our penthouse suite for free. What do I need to do? Nothing. We just want you to live here. Oh, like it was that, I had everything, like materialistically. But I remember like 3 weeks into Linsanity, I was like, man, this feels empty. Like, it's great, don't get me wrong, it's cool, but it's not enough for like my heart, my soul. As I tapped into my faith and understanding Jesus' love for me, not based on how well I played, but just who I am, just naturally, he already loves me fully. That I compare that with when I ruptured my patellar tendon with the Nets, and that was the lowest moment in my career. And I felt more peace in my lowest moment in my career than I did at my highest moment. And that's because I spent a lot of time figuring out who am I outside of basketball.
So this is a very powerful lesson. As many of us know, Jeremy Lin at one point became like the most well-known athlete in the world.
Lin puts it up. Bang! Jeremy Lin from downtown.
After being unknown. So he goes from unknown G Leaguer, a Harvard graduate, to suddenly waving off Kobe Bryant, waving off Carmelo Anthony, and knocking down game-winning shots. And that's of course a massive swing emotionally. But what he said makes perfect sense, which is knowing who you are and knowing your value besides for what you do. Because if you don't, as soon as like that big success moment wears off, you may end up feeling empty, as he just said. And this doesn't mean that you don't chase that success and that you shouldn't be striving for greatness in what you do, but it's about knowing that you are loved and that you are important beyond just what you do. But it's about who you are and knowing that like you're worthy of God's love, even if you don't score another point. And this is a hard realization as an athlete myself. I know this from my own experience, because when you have coaches who break you down to tears every time you don't play well, then you get showered with praise every time you have a great game, you start to think that like that's who you are. But this is also why it's important not to keep around fair weather friends. You want and need people who love you as you are, whether you're scoring 30 a game or 0 a game. And you need to remind yourself that like if you're a great person who treats others right and treats yourself right, that's even more important than being showered in praise for what you do. Now on to the sports recap for the week, and the recap of week 1 in the NFL. Let's go now. So first up in the sports world, starting with baseball, what has gotten into Aroldis Chapman? At the time of filming this, he hasn't allowed any hits to the past 50 batters he's faced. That's absolute insanity. He's thrown the equivalent of almost 2 perfect games, and his ERA is currently under 1. And he's doing this at 37 years old, after a few really down years, where so many people were thinking like he was past his prime. So I don't think anyone saw this coming. Now I think it's only been done like a handful of times before, whether it was Raleigh Fingers, Eric Gagne, Dennis Eckersley, and a few others, but like if he keeps this up over the last 20 games, is Aroldis Chapman a Cy Young candidate? Once again, it's extremely rare for a reliever to win the award, but this guy is on another level right now. 50 straight batters out. Crazy. Also in baseball, Shohei Ohtani keeps on dominating. He's up to 48 homers and over 1,000 OPS, while throwing the most pitches over 100 miles per hour as a starter. It's looking like he's on track to win his 4th NL MVP award. But also another super impressive player recently has been Juan Soto, who's currently on pace to hit like 40 home runs, have 30 plus stolen bases, and over 100 RBIs. So like his second half of the season has been nothing short of spectacular. Then of course Cal Raleigh is currently up to 53 homers at the time of filming, and if he gets to 54, he passes Mickey Mantle for most home runs by a switch hitter in a season. And if he goes on a crazy run to finish the season, he may end up with like 60 plus, but like we'll have to see about that. Team-wise in baseball, one really interesting story that's going on right now that's been like super surprising has been the San Francisco Giants. It looks like this team was giving up at the trade deadline as they basically traded away everyone, but the vets on that team have been unreal. Justin Verlander's having a crazy resurgence recently, with scoreless starts and 10 strikeout performances. Logan Webb has been like a borderline Cy Young candidate, and Rafael Devers has been a home run machine this past month, as has Willie Adames too, who had a really slow start to the season. Now I'm not saying they're going to make the playoffs, but what they're doing right now is super impressive. While the Padres are currently on a downward spiral, and the Mets on the other hand look amazing one game or 2 games and then will lose 3 in a row. Although all the Mets rookie pitchers are looking really good right now. So that's my baseball news, now on to the football. First up, a little bit of college talk. I know I said like I wasn't going to do it, but I have to say this when it comes to Arch Manning. Don't judge too soon. The sports media loves to do this. They'll make a huge deal of a player, hype him up crazy. He has one bad game, and everyone's saying like he's not even like an NFL player at all. Now keep in mind, his one bad game was against the defending champions Ohio State, and this is also like his first year as a full-time starter. Ohio State is obviously known for having a great defense too. So yes, we can criticize when a player has a bad game. I'm not saying that we can't, but this whole judging of talent and potential based on one game isn't fair and isn't right. What if we judge every sportscaster based on one bad take or their first ever show? Especially because the very next game he has 5 total touchdowns, and of course it was against a bad team, but like pump the brakes a little bit. Now on to the first week of the NFL, let's go. So the biggest stories from this week, and to recap of my favorite games and players, are as follows. Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers versus the Jets was the game of the week up until that night, but Rodgers looked vintage. He was spreading the ball around to everyone and like throwing for 4 touchdowns, and like some of those were super clutch, and he was looking super comfortable in that offense, despite not playing in any preseason games. So many people forget or overlook how good he was to finish off last year, and his stats were easily in the top half of the NFL. And he is of course one of the best QBs ever to play. And now he has Mike Tomlin as a coach. That team already looks like a playoff team, and Rodgers is back to looking special. Rodgers got his revenge against the Jets with help from Chris Boswell, who kicked the 63-yard field goal. Now all hope isn't lost for the Jets because Justin Fields looked really good too, and this whole game was like a back and forth game. The Jets competed, and Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, and Justin Fields of course, with those guys this offense can do some really big things. Next up, the Browns-Bengals game. I've been saying this recently, I like Joe Flacco a lot. He sort of reminds me of like the Rich Hill version of football. Rich Hill of course the pitcher in baseball. He's the type of player who's going to play until the wheels fall off because he loves the game, and that's pure love, and like it's really cool to see, I think. Even at 40, he's still making a lot of really good throws and giving a team who everyone picked to have like the worst offense in the NFL this year a chance to win. He played well in my opinion, he was not the problem. Both of those interceptions, while not perfect throws, were not his fault. His receivers dropped the ball into the hands of the defenders, and both of those throws probably should have been caught. He kept them in the game, and he was leading scoring drives. And while I hate to blame it on one guy because of course no one is perfect, and it is a team sport, but the kicker missed some rough field goals there, and an extra point too. But I liked how Flacco didn't throw him under the bus, and reminds everyone like that football is a team sport. Anyways, maybe just like my delusion, and the Browns do have a really tough schedule, but I do think at the very least they can make every game competitive, as long as the whole Shedeur Sanders thing doesn't become a huge distraction, which of course, that is a huge if, but especially when the Browns have like the best defensive player in all of football, I think. Myles Garrett is a one-man wrecking crew. No one can block him, he was getting to Joe Burrow like basically on every play, and Burrow wasn't even able to go off really at all, especially in the second half, even though I think last year he was the best quarterback in football. But like Myles Garrett is that dominant. Next up, the biggest surprise from this week was Daniel Jones, aka Danny Dimes, balling for the Colts. That team has had a solid roster for years now, and the Giants, as we know, didn't, but I don't think anyone saw like Danny Dimes leading 7 straight scoring drives and rolling over the Dolphins. Could he be the next Sam Darnold story? Yes, I know it's just like one game, but that offense looked really good, while Tua on the other hand struggled mightily, and Tyreek Hill was already getting visibly upset on the sidelines. So it could be a fluke, but like we'll see. Eagles-Cowboys was the opening game of the NFL this year, and it started off like a really good game before the whole rain delay. Dallas, I think, looked better than most people thought they were going to look, but there was no offense on either side in the second half of that game. We saw Baker doing Baker things, he threw for 3 touchdowns, and the Buccaneers rookie receiver, Anugba I think his name is, or something like that, he looked elite, like he had crazy speed. Michael Penix played pretty well, although he still made like a few errant throws. Chargers beat the Chiefs. Now was this a classic case of the opening week for the Chiefs, or is it spelling trouble for the future? Herbert looked unstoppable. Mahomes played very well, but like the injury to Xavier Worthy definitely hurt them. And don't forget, most of the Chiefs' wins last year were in one-score games, so like, how sustainable is that? My favorite team, the Green Bay Packers, looked amazing. Shut down Jared Goff and the whole powerful running back duo for the Lions in Gibbs and Montgomery. Jordan Love, I think, looked outstanding. He did his job. And if that defense with Micah Parsons now can play that well against the Lions, dare I say like this is a Super Bowl bound team? Also, another interesting team I'm thinking of, could the Rams be like a Super Bowl dark horse? Stafford's still playing at a high level. You bring in Devontae Adams, you have Kyron Williams at running back, Puka Nacua is still like an amazing receiver, and the team is like a really solid defense from last year too. And finally, before the game of the week, in my opinion, I'm not going to be covering every single game, but on Monday night, last night, Vikings-Bears started super slow as expected, both offenses looked like trash up until after JJ McCarthy threw the pick six. Fourth quarter, once the Vikings got their run game going, suddenly he looked super comfortable and like totally different player. He accounted for 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter and looked like the first round pick who that team drafted him to be. Caleb Williams has moments like especially in the run game, but also had his errant throws as a passer. Next NFL segment like I want to cover is the game of the week. So in week 1, this goes to the Bills-Ravens. It looked like the Ravens were going to run away with this game. That dynamic duo of Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry looked unstoppable, and they were pouring it on. No one in the Bills secondary could catch either of them. But the Bills hung around long enough for Josh Allen to mount like another crazy comeback and show everyone why he was the MVP last year. He made big play after big play and like he spread the ball around to various different receivers. Keon Coleman had a monster game. Dalton Kincaid made some big catches. And while Henry was spectacular and showing like how he's only getting better with age and time, that one fumble was huge unfortunately for him. And then you had 41-year-old recently signed kicker Matt Prater, who didn't even know like his teammates' names before the game, who kicks the game-winning field goal. What a game. Are those going to be the best teams in the AFC? Also, DeAndre Hopkins may have had the catch of the week with his crazy one-handed grab, although his competition was probably Isaac Tesla on the Lions, who went full Odell mode, but that may be forgotten in the whole blowout loss. Now finally in this episode, and like finally in week 1 in the NFL, I'm going to give my 3 overreactions. So first up, Aaron Rodgers will be an MVP candidate. Yes, he's 41 years old, but now that like he's had a full season since his Achilles injury, he's also in a new system with Mike Tomlin. That first game and the second half of last season, he looked special. Now I'm not saying he's going to keep this up, or that like the Steelers could rely on him every game to do that, but I'm also not saying it can happen. Overreaction number 2, Daniel Jones will be a Pro Bowl QB, and will lead the Colts to the playoffs. He did have one really good year with the Giants, a lot of people forget about that, but he also was a share of struggles, and took a lot of the blame. The Colts though are a better team, have much better system, so I know it's just like 1 week, but as I said earlier, he could have like a Sam Darnold type of resurgence season on a better team. And my third overreaction, the Chargers are going to win their division. With Coach Harbaugh and like a healthy Justin Herbert, that team could be scary good. And to beat the Chiefs in week 1 is no small feat. This team has been borderline upper class for the past several years now. So could this be the year where like that team finally overtakes the Chiefs? Possibly. Although I do think every team in that division has a shot. The Raiders with Geno Smith and Pete Carroll are good, and the Broncos as well. Anyways, that's your sports recap for the week. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Anyways, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. I hope you guys enjoyed all the topics. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you guys liked what you heard, make sure to leave a like, drop a comment, subscribe to the channel. I will catch you guys next time. Stay positive, stay hustling, stay grinding. Catch you next time. Peace.